as a merit for a speedy recovery for a very special person, Sean Mash. He is sick in the hospital, a very special person in Dallas, dedicated by Karen Lee and Michael Pollack for Fuah Shlema for Velva Ben Yosef, and Lilu Nishmas as a merit for the special woman who passed away this past week. The Litoff family in memory of their mother and mother-in-law, Gittel Bas Ruvain. And finally, as a refuah shlema for a dear friend of mine who is a colleague who is in the hospital with COVID, a young man, and he's having some issues that we're davening and praying, and the learning should be as a merit for a refuah shlema for Shmuel Ben Rachel Yenta.
Amazing. Okay. And you want to introduce Nili? Who is this Nili Couzens anyway?
Who is this Nili Couzens? So I don't even need the bio because I'm just going to share from my heart. For those of you, we've been going with her on trips to Israel for a number of years, but she is, what's so cool, when she came to Dallas last time, what's really nice about a speaker who doesn't just give lectures, but is so real, someone who is just such a special person. She sat with us, shared her life story, was able to give us coaching and counseling and advice. And her family started the Aish Philadelphia, founded it, built a beautiful community over there. And when the time came and the time was right, she went with her entire family, made Aliyah. And when she made Aliyah, she did it with children of all ages, setting...
Oops. Sorry. Wait, Shlomo. Sorry. Unmute yourself.
Oh, when did I get unmuted? I don't remember.
Good.
Where was I?
Just 2 seconds ago.
So anyway, so she also went with her family, made Aliyah, which was not so popular to do with a family of ages of all different stages, and setting the future for, God willing, many more families to follow in her footsteps, and continues to inspire women from all over the world. Without further ado, Nili Couzens.
1 second before we start, just such a nice group. Just everyone put your thumbs up and give a quick smile, quick picture. On three. 1, 2, 3. And for the other groups, because there's so many groups here, keep your thumbs up. Keep your thumbs up, folks. Keep your thumbs up. Hey, only thumbs, please. Joking. Okay, Nili, take it away.
Okay. Hi. First of all, thank you so much to the Jacknins, the Abrams, the Beguns, and the Scheinbergs. I feel close to all of you. It's a real honor to be a part of this. I love the collaboration. I love, the different cities getting together. Chicago's okay, you're not Texas, but you're Chicago, so like that's a close second to Texas. And it's amazing. I also want to thank you all for having your cameras on, so I get to see people. That's amazing. This is my favorite class to teach, actually. And Rabbi Jack and I didn't even speak about it. He just said, like, I think I got the flyer, and I was like, you picked my favorite. So I'm so happy to do this. I'm not sure how many people have the worksheet, but if you have the worksheet, this class is going to be based on this worksheet. Rabbi Jack, I don't know, can they get it now, or like how does that work?
I tell people that at least for each city, for Houston, we have if you sign up for the suggested donation of $10, we send you the worksheet. But that's what we do. So I don't know what the other rules for Dallas or Chicago. If you want to go through Dallas, I think they're free. But let me know. But or Chicago or San Antonio. So.
Okay, so I'm going to go through this, and whoever has it, great. And if you don't have it, you can get a piece of paper and jot it down. But here's the point of this class, right? So the class is called Welcome to Planet Earth. What are you doing here? And the point of the class is for it to be very practical. Judaism teaches us that each of us was put here for a very specific reason. Each of us has a mission, why we were put here. Judaism says that if somebody else could do your mission, then you wouldn't be here. Somebody else would be doing it. But the fact that you're here means that you have a specific purpose, a specific reason why you were sent here. And if you think about yourself, if you were sending someone off to do a mission for you, wouldn't you want to tell them what it was? So it can't be beyond us to know what we're doing here. That would defeat the purpose of giving us a mission. I was teaching this class one time, and somebody said, like, wouldn't it be easier if we just, had tags, like the way.
Oops. Sorry, Nili. Yeah,
I'm unmuted now. I got it. Good. Thank you. So you know how your sweater comes with the tag so that you know how to like wash it, not ruin it, you know, like, I don't know, hand wash cold, lay flat to dry, you know, whatever. So she said, wouldn't it be great if we all came with tags? Like if we have a mission, so, you know, the baby's born and you say boy or girl, and then you say, what does the tag say? And coming out of the baby's tuchus is like a tag. And it says like, you know, socially clunky, academically challenged, very athletic, you know, Olympics, gold medal swimming, you know, 2032 or whatever, you know, that the Olympics that she would be in. And you'd be like, great, now I know what she's doing here and I won't ruin her. And when you registered your daughter for school, you'd have to give in, you know, the shot records and copies of the tag. So in third grade, when she was like not paying attention, the teacher could just walk to the office and be like, can you give me this girl's tag? I have no idea what's going on. And then they read the tag and they're like, oh, academically challenged, leave her alone. She's going to the Olympics, it's fine, right? We'd save all this money on tutoring and psychotherapy and worrying about our kids being okay, right? Like, just tell me what my mission is. I'll do it. Why all the mystery? Why all the banging your head against a wall? Why struggling through a life and trying to figure out, you know, what you're doing here? So there's 3 answers, and the third one is really where the juice is. First answer is, you know, I don't know how many people have kids here or you've been with a kid, you know, we like to do things ourselves. And you even see this in very little children. You know, they want to pour their own apple juice. They want to put on their own shoes. They want to pick their own clothes, right? I do it myself. We have something in us that is just pre-programmed. We want to self-actualize. We want autonomy. We don't want to just follow the crowd. We want to do things ourselves. That's number one. A second reason is, have you ever been told what to do by somebody else? I remember when I was little, you know, my room was always a pigsty. That was my mother's word, right? Your room is such a pigsty, clean it up. So one time, I don't know why, but one time I felt like cleaning my room. You know, the feeling passed and I didn't, but I had a small inkling of wanting to clean my room. And my mother came in and she said, oh, good, you're cleaning your room. It was such a pigsty. What happened to my desire to clean my room? Gone, right? Because as soon as someone tells you to do something, suddenly your desire to do it is gone. So those are 2 reasons why. But the third reason really why we don't have tags is that life is not all about the punchline. Life is really all about the journey. And I know it sounds, you know, really like cliche and it should be like on a mug or something, but the reason why things became cliches is because so many people relate to them that we kept repeating it. That's why cliches happen. There's truth there. Life is really all about the journey. And I'll tell you a story that really illustrates this. I read this story online. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think it's a perfect story to illustrate this point. There was once a guy, he was graduating college and he was looking for jobs. So he takes his resume and, you know, gets it all spoofed up and he goes out to find a job and he gets called in by a firm he's really interested in. He goes for the first round of interviews, does great, goes for the second round of interviews, does even better. Now he's coming in for the third round of interviews and he thinks, I'm going to get this job. It's in the bag. So he shows up to the interview and the receptionist says to him, sir, I'm so sorry, but we're just running behind schedule today. It's so unusual. I really apologize. Would you mind waiting in that conference hall down the hall over there? And we'll come get you when we're ready, maybe 15 minutes. I really apologize. He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Here to be interviewed. Happy to wait. So he goes down the hall into this conference room and he sits down to wait to be interviewed. A few minutes later, knock at the conference room door and a guy walks in, looks like he's, I don't know, an intern, jeans, t-shirt, you know. And the guy who walks in says, listen, I'm so sorry, I don't want to bother you, but we need these chairs for another meeting we're having down the hall. I don't want to bother you, but do you mind if I just, you know, take the chairs? So the kid's like, yeah, sure, I'm just waiting to be interviewed. Like, do your thing. And this guy starts to clear the chairs. Now, what this poor kid who's waiting to be interviewed doesn't know is that's not an intern, that's the CEO, right? They get younger and younger. That's the CEO. And there is no meeting down the hall. This is a test. What does he want to see? He wants to see if this kid is going to get up and help clear the chairs. Because the company is not hiring a resume and they're not hiring a suit. They're hiring a person. And they want to know, are you the kind of person who's going to go the extra mile and help where you're not needed? Are you a generous person? Are you a team player? Or are you just going to like do your job description, punch the clock and go home? Like, who are you when the cameras aren't rolling and you think nobody's watching? But this poor kid doesn't know that. So as the CEO is clearing all these chairs to the fake meeting, he just sits there until there's 2 chairs left, the one he's sitting on and the one his feet are on. And the CEO walks over to the chair where his feet are and he says, buddy, do you mind? And the kid says, oh, no, sure, no problem. You know, takes his feet down like he's, you know, all that. And the CEO is like, yeah, we will not be needing your services. And the kid's like, what are you talking about? I'm waiting to be interviewed. And the CEO says, you just were. Now, what this poor kid didn't know is that they know, and I used to, when I lived in America, I used to teach this class to universities through the Bellaire program, which is sort of like an extracurricular program. And I would teach this class all over the East Coast and Chicago, like they'd bring me out to the schools. And I would tell the kids, like, look, now you're in college, and I guess all that matters here is your GPA. But once you get out there, that's not all that matters. Like, I guess if you're in university and you can cheat and get a 4.0, you know, I guess that will work for you. But out there in life, that's not what counts. It's not all about the bottom line. It's about all the little things you do when you think no one's watching and the camera's not rolling and you think it doesn't matter. All those little disciplines you do in the morning when you get up and at night before you go to bed, and how you treat people who quote unquote don't matter. That's who you are out there. You know, a childhood doesn't happen because of one amazing trip to Disney World. A childhood happens in all the little moments where you think nobody's watching and it doesn't matter, you know, how they feel when they come home from school and how they feel when they get put to bed and how they feel. It's all about the feeling, which is put together by all these little moments. So we don't have tags and we don't know our purpose because it's not about that. If I would tell you you're academically clunky and you're you're socially, you know, little all thumbs, but you're great at swimming, the first thing you would do is be like, oh yeah, watch this. Nobody wants to be told who they are. We want to find out. We want to show you. We want to self-actualize. So we don't have tags, but we do have clues, because it makes no sense to send someone on a mission and not have them know what it is. It is easy to figure out what your mission is. You just have to know what questions to ask, and then your answers will bubble up on their own. That's what this sheet is. This sheet is the questions. Now, I don't know what your mission is. And the younger you are, in my humble experience, I've taught this class, I don't even know how many times, I found that when I teach kids in college, they don't know themselves so well yet. So while they have the advantage of sort of like their path is in front of them, so they could sort of do whatever they want, their disadvantage is they don't know themselves that well yet. So when I say, what are your strengths? What do you love? They're like, well, I'm not sure. I mean, I love this, but I love that. Like, it takes them a while. The advantage of doing this later in life is you may not have every option available to you, because we already have jobs and families and places where we live and homes that we own and cars we have to pay for and all these things we have to do. But what we have is the advantage of, I know myself. So you can do the sheet really quickly. It's possible that when you hang up when you hang up this Zoom call here, you'll know exactly what your mission is. You'll be like, I got it. I know exactly what my, edge is. And it's possible that, a week or two from now, you'll be driving and you'll go, and like, as they say in Hebrew, the asimon fell, right? Like the penny drops, like you get it. It comes to you. So we're going to go through the sheet, And it's important to jot things down. If you don't have the sheet, I'll say the question, just jot it down on a piece of paper, but the juice is in the answers. The juice is not so much in the question. So here we go. Part one of this sheet is your strengths. Okay, you were sent here to do something, and what you were sent here to do is already in your hard drive. You know how kids are like naturally organized, or naturally they have the gift of gab, they're social, or they can sit and read for hours and hours, and another kid can't sit still for 5 minutes. It's like certain things just come in their backpack. Well, we're all like that. There are certain things that just came in our hard drive. And sometimes what makes it difficult to see what's in your hard drive is because if other people put it down, like for example, if you're an introvert and you were born into a family of extroverts, you may have been told, like, why don't you go out and play? Like, how come you never talk to anybody? And you thought maybe it was a bad thing when you were little, but there's nothing wrong with being an introvert. It's just, I'm an introvert. It's just who we are, right? So it's important to realize now that like recess is over, the prom happened, we're all grown-ups now, and what we're good at, we need to own, and we need to see the value. And whatever happened when we were little, that's over and done with, and it's nobody's fault. And like, it's our job to realize who we are and for us to value that and make something of that. So part one is your strengths, which is the things where you're strong, the things where you're good at, that's meaningful. So there's 3 parts here. Number 1, your talents. What are you naturally good at? And on this sheet, I wrote 1, 2, 3, but write 30 things. I wrote 1, 2, 3 because you shouldn't write less than 3, but write as many as you want. So the things that you're talented, things that you're naturally good at, sometimes these things become invisible because, you know, who would want to be a member of a club that would have you, right? So whatever you're naturally good at, you may think like, oh, so what? That's not a talent. Like, for example, if you're naturally organized, so you're like, big deal, I know where the towels go. Like, this is not a thing, right? But if you're naturally not organized, you look at your friends who are organized and you're like, oh my gosh, how does your linen closet look like that? How does your kitchen, how did you know, right? Because if you don't have it and someone else does, you marvel that they have it. Or if you are naturally, let's say, not so socially, you know, graceful, you know, you're at like a wedding or a cocktail hour and you can't think of anything to say and you feel tongue-tied, you look at your friends that are like gabbing away and you're like, how do you do that? You make it look so easy. And they're like, what? I have a big mouth? That's like not a thing, right? But if you don't know how to do that, you marvel. So stop doing that. Stop undervaluing what you're good at. Stop, like, we overvalue what other people do because we can't imagine doing that. And then whatever we do, we're like, oh, big deal, that's nothing. Like, knock it off. It's not nothing. We're unfortunately in a time of like really low self-esteem. And I mean, I don't have to tell you this, social media is just making it worse because everyone takes pictures of themselves looking gorgeous and, you know, on vacation or when their family's like not killing each other. Nobody puts on like, I look horrible, I hate my spouse, my kids are making me crazy, and like, I hate my life. We don't put pictures of that on social media, right? But who's been there? Okay, we've all had hard days. I'm not publicizing it, but when you see people on social media, you think everybody's life is fantastic. Or you see somebody's like bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, you know, they put together that reel that shows like birth to 13. And you're like, oh my gosh, can I be in your family? Like, they don't put the pictures of the fights in those reels. So we end up not being able to see what other people do right or wrong, and we end up undervaluing ourselves. Stop it. Well, the things that you are good at are valuable and important. They are in your hard drive for a reason. The reason why you're good at that is because think what you would do. You would never send someone on a mission to do something that they're bad at. You would only send someone on a mission to do something that they're already good at. If I want someone to paint my house, I'm going to make sure they know how to paint. If I want someone to fix my sink, I'm going to hire a plumber who understands plumbing. I'm not going to send someone who never doesn't know plumbing to fix. It doesn't make any sense. So whatever God sent you here to do, you're already good at it. You're naturally good at it. So those are your talents. The second thing, part of your strengths, loves. What are the things that you love to do? You may not be so talented, but you love it. Singing comes to mind, right? A lot of people love singing. No, okay. What is it that you love to do? Judaism teaches us you were sent here to love your life. Judaism wants you to love your life. It makes no sense to send someone on a mission to do something that they hate. That's counterproductive. We're better at things that we love. We're happier. We're more productive. We're more creative when we love what we're doing. So part of your mission here is something that you love doing. What do you love doing? And don't make anything like too trivial. Don't say like shopping, but that's stupid. Or I love sports, but like that's dumb. That's not what she means. Or like sitting on the beach doing nothing. Love that. Don't put that. That's trivial. Write everything down, because if you don't put stuff down, it like stops up your creativity flow. Just get it all out on paper. Anything that you love doing, write it down. You know that with, if you are, I don't know, let's say a doctor, right? If you love being a doctor and you also love going on vacation to the beach, you know that when you save a life, you love that more than your martini on the beach, no matter how nice the beach is or how good the martini is. When you do what you love and it's meaningful, of course that gives you more pleasure. You know that empirically, you've experienced that. So write the trivial, write the real, and then when you're going over your list and saying, okay, what do I love the most? You're naturally going to go to the things that are your purpose. You won't naturally go to like the little trivial pleasures. So just write it all down. The third part of your strengths are your paradise moments. This is, I got this from my teacher, Rabbi Niven, Aryeh Niven. He teaches classes on the phone. So if anybody has a chance to learn with him, I highly recommend it. I learned with him on the phone once a week for 4 years. It shifted my life, shifted how I understand Judaism, how I understand myself. So he has this thing he called paradise moments. Paradise moments are the moments where if you could freeze them and just like stay in that moment forever. There was something about you that just expanded into that moment. So I'll tell you a few just to give you some ideas. Younger people also don't know what I'm talking about. Older people know what I'm talking about. So one of my friends loves skiing out west. So she said, when I am on top of that mountain and it's like no one else is out there and it's early in the morning and the snow is untouched and like, she's like, I could stay there forever. One of my paradise moments, my kids were little and we rented a house like in the mountains on a lake. And I was there with my 2 oldest kids. They were like, I don't know, 5 and 7 at the time or something. We each had an inner tube and it was like the sun was setting and like we weren't talking and like the breeze was just so, and the sun was coming through the trees and nobody was fighting or killing each other for 2 seconds, and it was like heaven. And if I could have just paused that moment and stayed there. You can't plan paradise moments. They sneak up on you. And they could be really nothing, like you sort of take your dog for a walk and it just, the scenery's great, or that somebody's playing music, or you see 2 kids playing with the ball and your soul just sort of like buzzes for a minute. And they usually don't last long because then a truck comes or the kids start fighting or the ball goes in the street or something happens and they get ruined within like a minute or 2. They're fast. Write down any paradise moments you could think of. Maybe it was having a baby, maybe when you got married, maybe you graduated school, maybe you watched somebody else graduate, maybe you watched your child succeed at something, maybe your kid was in a play and it just was the perfect day. I don't know, whatever it is. Write down a few paradise moments for you. Now you want to take these 3 things, your talents, your loves, and your paradise moments, and like a Venn diagram where each thing is in a circle. You want to see where there's overlap. So something that you're naturally good at and something that you love doing, that's like a red flashing light. If you love it and you're good at it, chances are that's part of what you're doing here. In your paradise moments, what you want to sort of do is freeze frame that moment and like look around and sort of take inventory. Are you alone? Are you with people? Are you active? Are you passive? Are you in nature? Like what what are the details of that paradise moment? Sometimes you'll notice a pattern, and that will tell us something about ourselves. For example, I mentioned introvert before. So the definition of an introvert is not socially awkward. The definition of an introvert is someone who gets energized from being alone. And an extrovert would be somebody who gets energized from being with people. I heard, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Simon Sinek. He like does all these leadership videos. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing his name, but he recently, I saw a clip he did, and he explained it like this. He said, it's like an introvert wakes up in the morning with 5 coins, and every time they have a social interaction, they give away 1 coin. An extrovert wakes up with no coins, and every time they have a social interaction, they get a coin. So every social interaction energizes an extrovert, and they get happier and more juiced up, and their battery level keeps going up. An introvert is the opposite. The more we're with people, the more our battery goes down. Now, I'm an introvert, but it doesn't mean I don't like being with people, and I don't like, I, typically travel to your cities and meet people, or the missions come to Israel and I'm with hundreds of women, and like, I love that. But at the end of the day, when I get to my hotel room, I close the door and I do a little dance because I need that time alone. But most of us are a balance. Even the most extroverted extrovert needs time alone. And so, same thing for the introvert. We all need balance. But where do we get energized? Your paradise moments, if you're an introvert, you're probably alone in a lot of your paradise moments, or with just your family. An extrovert will be with people all the time. So you want to notice those things, because if I give you your dream job, but you're an introvert and I make you work with a team, you might hate your life and you won't know why. It'd be like, I have the best job in the world. Why do I feel so drained in my life? Because you're an introvert and you're not taking care of that part of yourself. Self-care is really important to do your mission. All of this stuff is there to help us get to our best, highest self. My favorite God quote, I say it all the time. It's not Jewish, but I love it. If God had a refrigerator, your picture would be on it. He loves you. He sent you here to do a mission that you're already good at and you already love. And there's clues along the journey your whole life long. God is talking. The Jewish belief is God is always talking to us. He doesn't send postcards. It'll be something that catches your eye, or something someone says to you, or commercial that you see, or a movie that you watch, or a book, something, but your life is talking to you all the time. You just have to be listening. You have to be watching for all of those signals. Okay, that is part 1. Once you get all that stuff together, then you write something your Ye'ud, which is a word that Rabbi Niven, I think, coined. A Ya'ed is your destination. Ye'ud is your purpose. You want to take all these things, your talents, your loves, your paradise moments, that Venn diagram, that overlap, what speaks to you, where your purpose is, and start writing a mission statement for your life. There is no right or wrong. You should tweak it all the time. But for us to know what makes our souls sing, makes life fun and meaningful and purposeful, it means we know where we can add more value. So write a mission statement for your, my purpose is, write it in pencil, write it 25,000 times, like it's all good. It said before God created the world, he created worlds and destroyed them, and created and destroyed them. So what that put in is like, rough drafts are okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to start over. But be in the game. What do you think you're doing here? If you don't know, who will know, right? If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? We have to know what we're doing here. So that is part 1. Next part, there is a personality system that I'm going to go through with you on the chart. Here, I'm going to hold it up. It's called Chaim Bracha Tov, right? So it's this little grid, 2 by 3 boxes. So in each part, wait, somebody put something in the chat. Let me see what this is. Can you give an example of a mission statement? Yes. So that's a great question. Thank you for putting that there. If anybody has any questions, you can put them in the chat. I'll try to get to them. Mission statement. So one of my friends, as soon as I gave this class, she knew exactly what her mission statement is. She said, I do not want to be the one on the stage. I hate that. But I love creating a whole event or an environment or an atmosphere or something where somebody else is that person on the stage for something I think is meaningful. She's super organized. She knows a ton of people. If she says, you got to, come to this restaurant, you got to hear this chef, you got to hear this rabbi, you got to watch this movie, everybody's coming because they love her and they trust her. She's like, I never want to be the person getting up and doing that, but I want to be that connector. I want to be that creator, bringing people to something that I think is meaningful. It could be asparagus. It could be philosophy. It could be a movie. She loves a lot of things. She loves creating a situation, a dinner party, a class, an event, whatever it is, where she brings the people she loves to experience something that she loves. Right? So how does she write that succinctly? I didn't look over her shoulder. I don't know. But she knew immediately, I'm the connector. I'm the creator. I'm not the spotlight person. But I do everything around so the spotlight can happen for the right people. Okay? So you play with it, you tweak it, you'll figure it out. You may not know the second. You'll play with it, you'll tweak it. I'm telling you, you'll get this. I try to redo this sheet once a year. I do this sheet in Elul, the month before Rosh Hashanah, which is like we're starting a whole new year, right? I redo the sheet because hopefully every year I'm growing, I'm different, I learn more things about myself. Like we want to keep growing. Okay, so now the personality system. So it's called Chaim Bracha Tov. It doesn't necessarily have to do so much with the meaning of those things. That's just what they're called. We each have all three personalities. So I'm going to go through what each one of these are. I'll translate it. I'll explain it. I just want to give you some background so that you'll understand as we go through. We all have all three. The same way there's like visual learners and audio learners, and I always forget the third one, experiential, but there's something else that's called, right? We all, you'll have one that's the dominant way that you learn. But someone who's a visual learner still wants to hear the instructions, even though they'll understand it most from seeing it. So everyone has all three, just one of them is going to be dominant. In the three personalities, you'll have one for your body and one for your soul. And I'll explain what that means as we go through. But it means you have one that naturally connects you, that you naturally move towards, in your life. This is just how you sort of experience your life. And then you have another one that sort of gets in your way, that sort of pulls you down a little bit. And we all have all three, but you'll recognize one as like, oh yeah, that gets me every time. Okay. So I'm going to go through it. And as I'm explaining it to you, you will recognize people in your life. You'll be like, oh my gosh, that was my father. Or that is my spouse, or my oldest kid. That is exactly, he does that all the time. You'll start recognizing people. There's a right and a wrong way to use this system. The right way to use this system is to give people permission to be different than us. The wrong way to use the system is to pigeonhole people or to make excuses for our bad behavior. Like, well, I'm a Chaim soul, so deal with it, or whatever, right? That's not the point of this. The point of this is not to make us or other people smaller or excuse bad behavior. The point of this is to be less judgmental, to be more expansive, to understand why people are different than us, and to understand ourselves, and to give ourselves a break. And once you see like where you are or where someone else is, okay, so now it's time to grow. This isn't an excuse not to grow. It's just sort of a mile marker. Like, you are here, but you still have like where you want to get to. You still grow. But in understanding ourselves and other people more, hopefully it makes the growth easier. We don't want to stop the growth. We want to make the growth easier. So here we go. Chaim, Bracha, and Tov. These three personalities, Chaim means life. Chaims are the thinkers, right? They're always thinking about life. Bracha means blessing. Brachas are the feelers, okay? The feeling, the blessing of life. The third one is a Tov. Tov means good. Tovs are the doers. They always want to do the good thing. Okay, so Chaim, Bracha, and Tov. Rav Noach Weinberg, who was the Rosh Hashiva, the head of Esha Torah, really created this system really developed it. The source for it is in the writings of Rabbi Dessler. He has a book called Strive for Truth. This is in book 5 on Parshas Lech Lecha. He talks about this. And a place to really, really read up about this and understand the system, because I'm going to give you snippets. If you want to learn more, there's an amazing book called Powers of the Soul. Okay, Powers of the Soul by Tom Meyer, M-E-Y-E-R. It is out of print, but you can periodically find it on Amazon or someplace else online. In my humble opinion, I don't get it cut. Whatever it costs, buy it. It's an amazing book. Okay, Powers of the Soul, Tom Meyer, out of print, but keep your eyes open for it. It's amazing. I keep begging him to reprint it. So far, no luck, but maybe if enough people put in demand, you'll get it. So here we go, Chaim Bracha Tov. So I'm going to do body and soul in each one. So we're going to start with Chaim, which is the thinkers. A Chaim soul, we're going to do the soul first. So a Chaim soul is a thinker, is someone who loves ideas. They connect to the world through ideas. They love speeches. Whoever put in the thing, spell Tom Meyer, that's exactly how you spell it. You did it right in the chat. Tom Meyer, that's it. Chaim souls. So Chaim souls, they love ideas. They love thinking. They love debate, not because they're argumentative, but because it's just like Play-Doh for them to like talk about ideas and bat it around. If you start talking to a Chaim about anything, they're like right there with you. They love conversations. It could be about, you know, the most esoteric thing, but like they love ideas. I once met Dennis Prager. He was speaking for us. And I asked him some question. I used to listen to his show and I asked him some question. This is maybe 15 years ago. He jumped at the opportunity to discuss whatever it was so much that I got like intimidated. He was like so all over it. Chaim soul, loves ideas, love thinking. The classic absent-minded professor, like brilliant, doesn't know where his keys are. That's a classic Chaim soul. If you have a child who's a Chaim soul, they might be like really, really smart and not doing well in school. And as a parent, you're like super frustrated because you know how smart they are. And then they're not getting good grades and like they're not doing well in school and like you can't figure it out. So that may be because school isn't really about thinking. School's about memorizing and spitting it back and sit down and don't interrupt. Well, that's not real intellectual learning. That's just memorize and spit it back. So Chaim souls are like insulted by that. They have like no patience for that. So as a parent, you may be like, why aren't you doing better? And it's like, they just think school is stupid because they're not really being challenged to think. That's one way a Chaim soul may manifest. But another may be that kid who's so smart and does so well and skips 3 grades. You know, that's also a Chaim soul. So it could show up in different ways. But the main hallmark is a Chaim soul is a thinker. They love ideas. And you'll see it by they love speeches. They love reading. They love talking about ideas. Okay, this is their playground. They don't try to be smart. This is just naturally how they are in the world. Reading a ton, talking a ton, thinking a ton. They love that. If a Chaim soul is a thinking soul, then a Chaim body is a thinking body. So a Chaim body is like constantly picking up on other people's vibes. They can walk into a room and they know exactly what's going on. Chaim bodies make great therapists because there's one thing that you're saying, but there's something that you're not saying. And a Chaim body will pick up on that without even trying. It could help in parenting, could help in teaching, could help in a lot of ways. Chaim bodies are usually introverts. Because like we said before, right, an introvert, they get their energy from being alone. So if a Chaim body is always absorbing other people's energy, when they walk into a party and there's all that like fun, chaotic energy, they're like a sponge and they soak it all in. They can't turn it off. So it could be like overwhelming and exhausting. So a Chaim body, they'll be like heading into a party. They're like, when are we leaving? Right? Because they don't like that stuff, right? Or a wedding, or if they walk into a Shiva house, they're like, drained from the mourning and the sadness, right? So Chaim body is not a feeler. We'll get to feelers in a second. What a Chaim body does as a thinking body, it's picking up on other people's vibes. You'll see what a feeler is in a second when we get to bracha. It's a great question. You could say they're feeling other people's feelings, but it's more they're picking it up like antenna. It's not necessarily empathy. That's different. This is just, I know what you're feeling. I pick up the vibes. I walk into a room and I feel the energy in the room, right? So it's a thinking body that picks up on those vibes. Somebody who's a Chaim body recognizes this in a second. Somebody who's not a Chaim body does not understand this body. Because if you don't get it, you don't get it. But people who get it right away. They're like, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm a total Chaim body. Okay, so let's move on to feeler. Let me explain that to you. So a bracha soul is a feeling soul. Bracha souls connect to the beauty of the world, the sunsets. A bracha soul loves people, right? They're very generous. They're very giving. The bracha soul is the one that will bring you cookies and bring you chicken soup when you don't feel well. The bracha soul is one who always wants to like be the class mom. They all want it because they want to take care of everybody and they want to like be there for everyone, and they're social and they're extroverted. They connect to people. My mother is very much a bracha soul, right? So when we lived in South Africa for 2 years and my mom came to visit us in Johannesburg, and then she went down to Cape Town for a few days vacation. Okay, then she comes back from Cape Town to tell me about her vacation. Some people, when they go on vacation, will tell you everything they ate, right? Especially nowadays, right? Pictures of the food. Some people will come back from vacation and tell you every place they saw and everywhere they went, this museum and that memorial, and right? My mother came back and told me about every single person she met. We were on the boat. We met this guy. He was like Zorba the Greek, right? Like colorful, and like everyone she met, she loved, and she's like full Technicolor telling me all about it. Okay, they say that everyone's loves brachas because brachas love everyone. Okay, these are the social. They're beautiful. They're like lipstick people. They're always put together. They're always happy to see you. They just connect to the beauty of people and the beauty of the world. If a bracha soul is a feeling soul, a bracha body is a feeling body. So if a bracha soul loves to give pleasure to other people, take care of other people, connect to other people, a bracha body loves to get pleasure. So a bracha body is like the classic couch potato, that guy in college who was always like, you know, a big fuzzy sweater and like always had beer for everybody. And, you know, he was always like, a bracha body never met a rugalach they don't like. Okay, food is the volumes just turned up more for the bracha bodies. They love those fuzzy socks and the yummy towel and the sun on their skin and cuddling with their blanket. It's very hard to get up and like get the remote if you're a bracha body because you're just so perfectly comfortable on the couch. You like, you don't want to move. So bracha bodies, they might look lazy. They're not. It's just gravity is like a little bit louder for them. You know, some people might have like a shorter temper, or they might have a fast metabolism. You know, you didn't really do anything. It just sort of came in your hard drive, and maybe you have you're very naturally patient, which lucky you, or you have a naturally short fuse. You know, you got to work on that. You have a fast metabolism. We hate you, those people, right? Or you just have a slow metabolism and like you got to deal. Like bracha bodies, it's just physical pleasure is just, it's louder for them. So they look lazy. They're not lazy. It's hard. It really is hard to get off the couch. Like, what are you going to do? Okay. So a bracha body loves to get pleasure, physical pleasure, the beach, the sun, eating, whatever it is. Okay. The bracha body, feeling the pleasure. Last one, tovs. Tovs are the doers. Okay. Doing the good thing. So a tov soul is naturally motivated to do the right thing. They don't even choose it. So one of my friends thought I was a tov soul. I am not. It's not my thing, but they were positive I was. So and they are. Here's the question they asked me as the litmus test. They said, it's the middle of the night and no one is around for miles and you're not going to get a ticket and you come to a red light. Do you wait for it to turn green or do you look both ways and go through? There's no one around. It's 3 a.m. You won't get caught. I'm like, I'm going through that light. Like if no one's going to get hurt and I won't get a ticket, I'm not going to sit at 3 a.m. for 5 minutes at a I'll 10 seconds, but she's like, I would sit there for an hour. I just can't go through a red light. She's like, you're not a Tov soul. Okay, Tov souls, they don't choose it. They must do the right thing. If it's not littering, if it's helping someone, Tov souls are motivated. They must do the right thing. They don't choose it, but that's how they relate. For people who are observant, right, you'll recognize they never met a chumrah they didn't like. They love halacha, right? They like rules. They like doing the right thing. This is very, very meaningful to them. Tov souls have a stumbling block that they have to look out for because Tov souls come in two types, judgmental and non-judgmental. Okay? Judgmental because if you're motivated to do the right thing, then you're very aware of what that right thing is. So if a Tov soul sees somebody else who's not doing the right thing according to that soul, well, that means that they're going to think that other person is wrong. That's the definition of judgmental. I am judging what you're doing, right or wrong. They don't mean to be bad. They're so motivated by the right thing and you're not doing it. And how could you litter? And that's so wrong. And especially nowadays, how could you not wear a mask? What's wrong with you? Or how could you wear a mask? It's a conspiracy. Whatever it is that they think is right. And I'm not commenting on anything political or anything like that. But where that comes from is if I'm motivated to do the right thing and you're not doing it, so then they could be judgmental. The other way this shows up is not judgmental. It does not, I wish it faded with maturity. It does not fade with maturity. I'm sure if anybody's met older people who could still be very judgmental, right? It's nothing to do with maturity. I wish we outgrew all of our flaws. I wish I outgrew my flaws, but unfortunately we have to work on it. It doesn't just come with maturity naturally. There's another way of Tov could show up, and that's not judgmental. So one of my daughters is a non-judgmental Tov soul. And I think the way it works is this. I think it's that they think judging people is wrong, so they don't. Judging has gone into one of their columns and they recognize it. So like this daughter didn't know the Hawk in high school, didn't know what anybody was talking about because it's wrong to be nosy. It wasn't a choice that she made. She just naturally like that. So if a Tov soul is to do the right thing, a Tov body is driven to just do. Tov bodies are very, very busy. They may be busy doing silly things, but they're busy doing it, right? They have everything color coded. They have their schedules. Their spices are alphabetized. Their linen closets are color coded by size of the towels, right? They're like all over this. They know they have to if they're driving carpool 3, that means they have to leave at 2:45. They have to stop at the store, so they better make it 2:37 because that's going to take 3 minutes. And that light always turns red, so another 2 minutes for that, right? Everything is scheduled. They have calendars. They know what they're doing in January 2022, right? Corona was very hard for these people because suddenly there's no structure. There's no rules. There's no, what I planned didn't happen. That's legitimately very hard for Tov body because they thrive on structure and schedule and planning and being busy. And suddenly there's no planning, there's no structure, there's no being busy, there's hours and hours, they can go out of their minds. Okay, so that's a Tov body. Usually we are one personality in our soul and a different personality in our body. That's usually how it is. Sometimes it's less common, but frequent, just less frequent. You can end up being the same category in body and soul. So when you're saying your type, you say soul first and then body. So if somebody is like a Chaim soul and a bracha body, you would say Chaim, they're a Chaim bracha. Soul first, body second. If somebody's the same, you would say they're a Chaim Chaim, right? Chaim soul, Chaim body. Doubles are a little complicated because it doubles back on itself. It gets very intertwined when it is when it's a double, right? It can be more complicated there, but it's not a bad thing. It just means you're going to be a more complicated personality type because you're the same in body and soul. Okay, so I am done with that part. I see that it's 5 to 7 and I'm looking at the chat Rabbi Jackson, I don't know what time we started. Tell me what time you want me to finish.
I say keep going. Keep,
Let's
guys,
go.
please, come on.
Okay.
Let's
Right.
definitely go to like 8
If
o'clock.
anybody needs to get off, I won't even notice. So I'm certainly not insulted. Like, do your thing. Like, it's so cool. Okay. Did see somebody had to get off. They have to tutor. Sababa, no problem. Okay. I think that's it. Okay, here we go. So now the next part of this is the part I like the best. Part 2, well, it's part 3 actually, because the personality type. This is called renovations, which is a nice way of saying there are some things that you're doing wrong and we need to fix them. Okay, we all do things wrong. We just need to figure out what they are and how to fix them. So the first thing on here is called your tikkun. Your tikkun, literally, letaken means to fix something. So your tikkun is something that you do wrong. Now, there is a difference between all the things we do wrong and your tikkun. So as an example, I can see you. So just show of hands, how many people here, let's say, lost their temper once? Okay, you didn't want to get angry, you lost your temper, you couldn't help it. Okay, good. How many people ever felt jealous? You didn't want to, but you just like really felt the green-eyed monster, not Rabbi Jackson, okay? Jealous. How about klutz, dropped or broke something you didn't want to drop and break, right? Okay, just keep your hands up, okay? Like, we all do things wrong all the time. That's not your tikkun. That's called being a human being. This is why Yom Kippur comes once a year. Because once a year, I don't care how long your beard is, or how long your skirt is, or how religious you think you are, no one is exempt from Yom Kippur. Because Yom Kippur is the day where we all just take a day and like admit you blew it. Say you're sorry. Say you're sorry to people. Say you're sorry to God, and like blank slate. Start over, right? At least once a year, do that. So the fact that we make mistakes, that's not the news flash. Your tikkun is not that you make mistakes. Your tikkun is there's one mistake that you are rocking. You are so good at this one mistake. You keep tripping over this. The same way you have your strength that you excel at, you have your tikkun, which is you keep tripping over the same rock. Well, like, figure out what that rock is. Figure out how to build with it instead of tripping over it. If you pick it up and you move it and you work on it, you turn it into something else. So we want to figure out what is our tikkun so that we can work with it. Try to fix it. Try to make it better. Try to figure out who we are. So here's how you figure out your tikkun. There's 2, and when you think about all the different flaws that we all have, how do you recognize a tikkun from just a flaw? Because there's a difference between getting angry and an angry person. You hear that difference? There's a difference between dropping something and like a real klutz who's always dropping something. How do you know the difference when you've crossed that line into like tikkun territory? So there's 2 questions you want to ask yourself. Number 1, is this a flaw, a mistake that I make constantly, meaning at least daily? Okay, is this a mistake that I make on a consistent basis? And the second question is, if I pulled this mistake out by its roots, would it pull other mistakes with it? I'll say that again and I'll explain to you what I mean. Question number 1, do I keep making this mistake consistently? And number 2, if I pull this mistake out by its roots, would it pull other mistakes with it? So I'll give you an example from my own life so you'll see what I mean, because this is like a little slippery and it's good to have an example to really understand it. So when I was doing this work with Rabbi Niven, when he said this, I knew immediately what my tikkun was, because I am always late. Okay, this is like 10, 15 years ago. I was really bad then, like 20 minutes late to everything. So I knew immediately, like, it's late. I know my flaw. I am late to everything. So question number 1, is this a mistake I make all the time? And the answer was, for sure. As soon as I hit snooze on the alarm clock, as soon as I don't, if I had to be somewhere at 2:05 is probably too late to leave to get there. Like, that wasn't going in. Okay, I was late all the time. I had a big job, a big family. My husband had a big job. Like, this was happening all the time. So question number 1, yes. Question number 2, If you pull this mistake out by its roots, would it pull other mistakes with it? And after thinking about it, I really had to say, like, no. I would have all the same problems. I would just be punctual. Like, it wouldn't make me less angry. And maybe, I wouldn't be angry if I was late. It wouldn't make me more patient. Like, it wouldn't do anything. I'd just be punctual with all the same problems that I have anyway. So I started thinking, maybe late is a symptom of a deeper flaw. And if I could figure out what that deeper root flaw is and get rid of that, maybe that would take late with it and other things also. You follow what I'm saying? So I was thinking, why am I late? Like, what's the root cause of me being late? So I started Googling it. I took out these books from the library, The Idiot's Guide to Procrastination, these books. Of course, I lost them. They were overdue. I don't know why. Like, who do they think are taking these books out? They should not let them out of the library, right? But everything I read said the same thing. You're late because you think you're more important than other people. You don't respect other people's time. You don't value other people. And I'm thinking, like, I just don't relate to that. I'm not a jerk. I'm just late. I'm just sloppy. I'm not inconsiderate. So I started asking my friends, because whenever we think something, we're subjective, it's ourselves. It's good to have a tripod of people you check. Ask your friends, and ask if you have a rabbi or a mentor, someone that you look up to, a role model in your life. Ask them. Somebody you look up to, somebody above you, and somebody on your level. So I started asking my friends, we're supposed to meet at Starbucks, and I'm 20 minutes late. Do you think I'm late because I don't respect your time and I think I'm more important than you? Like, do you think that I'm disrespecting you? And they were like, no, you're just you tried to get in that one more errand. You're just a little disorganized. You lost track of time. They're like, you're not arrogant. You're just like a little messy, which is what I thought. And what I realized is that I don't like structure. Of course, structure helps me in my life, but there's some people like that Tove body. Remember I said, I don't have Tove. I'm sure I do somewhere, but that idea of planning my week and planning a month in advance and knowing what everybody's doing, and like, that makes me feel like this. I don't like that. I like, let's go with the flow, whatever it is, we'll figure it out, Now, not all my kids are like this. One of my daughter, I mentioned before, who's a Tove, so she's married now. But when she was in high school, so she was just naturally organized. I remember when she was 8 years old, she like disappeared for like a couple hours. Afterwards, she came back. I'm like, where were you? She's like, oh, I was organizing my bookcase. And I was like, you can pay me to like organize your bookcase when you're 8 years old? Like, so not me as a kid. This was in her hard drive. This is who she is. So when she was in high school, she would say to me like, Mommy, I need to go to Old Navy this Sunday, get stuff for school, whatever. What time do you want to go? And I would be like, Esty, it's Tuesday. And she'd be like, yeah, I know, I'm planning. And she'd pull out her calendar and she'd be like, what time do you want to go? And she'd like, wait. And I would be like, I don't know, like, what time does it open? What time does it close? Somewhere in there, I guess we'll go. Like, that's how I roll. That makes her twitch. She wants me to say 3:30. And then she'll go, 3:30. And then she'll plan her whole day around 3:30 at Old Navy. And I don't even understand that. It's like so arbitrary. What if the phone rings? What if something good is on TV? What if the baby throws up? What if my whole day around 3:30 at Old Navy? Why not 3? Why not 4? Like, I just think it's stupid. When I say 3:30, I start to twitch because I start feeling confined. But she feels expansive. She recently, her birthday was coming up, and she said to me, there was some like planner for like Jewish moms or something, and she's like, could you get that for me for a birthday present? And I just looked at her and blinked, and she looked at me for a second and she goes, you're going to use this in your class, aren't you? And I'm like, yep. She said, if you buy me the planner, you can use it, right? This is just naturally who she is. We were on a beach vacation, last example. So you'll see what I'm saying. We're on a beach vacation recently, a couple of years ago. And she would bring, we rented a house with a pool on the beach. It was like our big vacation. She would spend her time at the pool on her computer doing her online bio course at the pool. And I was just, now that is so not me. Like, I'm a bracha body. I'm like into the pool and the sun and like taking a nap and like leave me alone. Doing my bio course at the pool would be like a punishment. But for her, it would not be relaxing to sit there and do nothing. So where this system works is in the past where I would have been like, what's the matter with you? Like, you got to smell the roses if you want to enjoy your life. Now I get it. She's a Tov body. She'll smell the roses. She'll put it on her schedule. Smell roses, 30 seconds. Done, right? That's how Tov bodies work. They enjoy life by scheduling it. What this system does is it lets me see that is how she enjoys life. Now, getting back to me with structure. So here's how your tikkun works. Once you see what your tikkun is and what you need to work on, the question you want to ask yourself is this working for me? See, because it's not like she's too uptight and I'm too loose. That's not what's going on. I think she's fine. She's happy. It works for her. I had to ask myself, is resisting structure working for me? There's no objective standard that is the gold standard. It's just, is it working for you? And I had to admit, this is not working for me. I could be more productive if I could figure out a way to incorporate structure into my life without feeling suffocated or constricted. So my tikkun, now going back to this, is resisting structure in my life something I trip over all the time? And the answer is yes. If I could incorporate, plan for tomorrow, set the alarm early, leave with time to spare, whatever it is, I would get more done. I would be less stressed. So the first answer is yes. Second question, if I could pull this mistake out by its roots, would it put many other mistakes with it? Yes, it would. Because it would be sort of across the board. It would help me to be more productive and more happy and more calm in life. Okay, that's tikkun. Last thing, this is your Yetzer Hara. This is the voice in your head. So I love this. It's like my favorite thing. So your Yetzer Hara, I don't know if that's a term that when somebody puts something in the chat, can stress from kids asking for too many things at once or fighting be a tikkun. Now, but those things could be pointing you towards your tikkun. You remind me, one of my friends once asked me, one of my students once, when I lived in Philly, one of my students called me up and she said, she wrote it in an email. She said, I have a question for you. It's a halachic, it's a Jewish law question. She said, if the dog is barking and someone's knocking at the door and the phone is ringing and dinner's burning and my husband's calling me and the kids are crying, is it, according to Jewish law, is it permissible to shoot the dog in the head? I was like, yes, it's fine, right? So we all have those moments. It's pointing us towards something. Look, we're all going to feel stressed out. Those moments where the kids and the dog and the phone and the dinner, like, it's a lot. Like, give yourself a break. It's okay. It's okay to feel stressed out. Our tikkun is that mistake that we're making every day. How do we fix that? Okay, so your Yetzer Hara. Your Yetzer Hara is the voice in your head that talks to you and says like really nasty things that you would never say aloud to anybody else. Like, I'm so stupid. I look so fat. What's the matter with me, right? Everybody, you know what I'm talking about? Raise your hand if you know you have a voice in your head that talks to you all the time. Okay, those of you not raising your hand, sitting there going, voice? What voice? I don't have any voice. Okay, that's the voice. We all have the voice all the time. We cannot turn it off. It is always talking to us. There's different voices, actually. There's your Yetzer Tov, there's your Yetzer Hara, right? Different class. But your Yetzer Hara is the voice that tells you things that pull you down, that make you lose confidence in yourself, that make you miserable, that point out what's not right in your life and what's not right about you in this sort of relentless, sort of draining way. Now, your Yetzer Hara, Hi, Linz. Your Yetzer Hara, your Yetzer Hara, I knew she'd love that shout out. The Yetzer Hara is not there really to tear you down, okay? Your Yetzer Hara is there really to build you up. And a great example to understand how the Yetzer Hara works in Judaism, the Yetzer Hara is not from some other place. We believe the Yetzer Hara comes from God. So why would God give us this voice, this drive in our heads that's always with us, that's trying to pull us down? Like, where's the godliness in that? What's the point of that? So imagine this example. Imagine a king who has a son, and the king knows he's going to be passing the kingdom to his son after he dies, but he wants to make sure his son is like a good moral leader who will be loyal to the people and upstanding and resist temptation to like sell out or be too strict or tax too much or whatever. So while the king is alive, the king calls over his most trusted servant and he says, I want to test my son. I want to make sure that he's worthy to take over the kingdom after I die. So I need your help to test my son. Servant says, anything. Like, what can I do for you, your majesty? He's, I want you to tempt my son to stage a coup against me. And servant's like, come again? You want me to what? He's like, I want you to tempt my son to overthrow me. I want to see what he does. If he's a loyal, upstanding, moral person, he won't go for it. And if he does go for it, I know we have work to do here, because that's wrong. That's not loyal. That's not upstanding. Like, and the servant doesn't want to do it. He's like, your majesty, I'm your most trusted servant. I don't want to convince someone to overthrow you. And the king says, this is what's necessary for this long-term welfare of the kingdom. You got to do it. The servant is convinced. He goes off to the prince, pulls him over to the side. He says, listen, your dad, he's getting old and is, a little stuck in his ways. The people don't love him as much. You're so cool. You're so good looking. You're so relatable. The people love you. I think it would be better for the kingdom if you overthrew your father. Let's figure, I know his weaknesses. You'd be so much better on the throne. What do you say? You and me, let's stage a coup. While the servant is saying this, although out of his mouth is coming everything to convince the prince to overthrow the father, inside the servant is begging the prince to just throw him out. He's saying, like, just say no to me. Just ignore me. Like, be true to your father. Whatever I say to you, ignore me. Be true to your father. Because that's his ruler too. That's the goal of the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is from God, and it's there to help us build moral muscle. The way we build physical muscle is we lift heavy weights that are just a little too hard for us. And as soon as our muscles get strong, if you want to keep building muscle, you lift heavier weights. You don't say, oh, good, I'm done, and walk away. What happens to your muscles then? They get flabby, and if you immobilize enough, they will atrophy. If you want our muscles to be strong and healthy, we keep lifting heavier weights. The stronger we get, the more we lift. There's always more growth. Well, morally, spiritually, Judaism would say the same thing. If we want to become spiritually, morally stronger, there's this counterweight. And the only reason why God put it there is not so you'll fall. It's so you'll get stronger and you'll push against it and will succeed. So we have this voice. We need to see through it and become greater than it. So recognizing our Yetzer Hara will help us do that. While we each have this Yetzer Hara voice, we each have a different Yetzer Hara voice. Meaning, if I put us all in the same stressful situation, like you're on your way to your daughter's wedding and you're in standstill traffic and you're going to be 4 hours late to your own daughter's wedding. Okay, would you be stressed out? If you're a human being, you're going to be stressed out. Your Yetzer Hara is going to have a field day with this. Okay, the voices are going to start going. But my voice and your voice are going to say different things. Some people's voices are going to say, I'm such an idiot. It always happens to me. Someone else is going to say, what are all these idiots doing on the road? Someone's going to say, it's this one's fault. This one's going to, like, everybody's going to have something. We're all going to be stressed out. Our Yetzer Haras are all going to be activated, but our voices say different things. It's possible to find that moment where your Yetzer Hara voice was activated in your childhood. Now notice I said activated and not created, because the same way we came with our strengths already in our hard drive, and you can see this in your kids, and our flaws already in our hard drive, you can also see this in your kids. We came with our Yetzer Hara voice already in your hard drive. It was already there. It just was dormant. And then something happens in our life that flips that switch and the voice gets activated. It's possible to find that moment where that voice was activated. Now, what I'm about to do with you now, this is not Torah. I got this from someplace else. And it's possible that it wouldn't work, but I've never seen it not work. Everybody thinks it doesn't work for them, or a lot of people think it doesn't work for them. It's probably working for you, okay? But I'll tell you how to get it to work, so we'll be able to do this. So I'm not going to ask anyone to share, so you can be as honest as you want. I hope you'll be very, very honest. And wherever this takes you, like, go with it, because you don't have to tell anybody else. It's totally private. It's possible to find where that story happened in your childhood. Here's how you do it. Think of a story that happened in your childhood. Any story. It doesn't have to be the earliest. It doesn't have to be painful or happy or sad or memorable. Any story from your childhood, just whatever comes to mind, whatever pops, it's popping for a reason. Even if you think it's insignificant, then it wouldn't have popped. There's many things that happen to us in our lives. We don't remember most of them. We remember the significant ones. So think of any story from your early childhood, okay? Earlier is better, but it doesn't have to be the first. I'm not going to ask you to share the story, but just raise your hand when you pinpoint a story so I know you're with me, and then I'll keep going. If it takes a minute, that's fine. We can wait a minute. Okay, now, for yourself, just so it's fresh, take a minute and just narrate the story from start to finish so that it's fresh for you. Okay, start at the beginning, go through the story, close your eyes if you want to, just go through all the details so that the story is fresh for you. I'll give you like 10, 15 seconds to do that. Okay, this is the only thing I'm going to ask you to share, just by like holding up fingers. How old were you in your story? 6, I think that is 5, 2, 4, 10. Is that 5? That's 8. And Melissa Andrews, you must be, hold your hands closer up. Is that 8 also? 8, good. 6, 7. Okay. Here's what I want you to ask yourself, and I'll explain to you what I mean with some examples because it's hard, okay? But here's the questions I want to ask you. It's on the sheet. If you have the sheet, there's 3 questions. Number 1, what decision did I make about myself at that moment? Question 2, what decision did I make about life at that moment? And question 3, what would I say to that little child now? What's true? Okay, question 1, what decision did I make about myself? Question 2, what decision did I make about life? And question 3, what would I say to that little child now? What's true? So I'll tell you what I mean. I don't mean that little 4-year-old girl, boy, whatever, said like, well, I don't know, somebody stole my tricycle. I'll never trust anyone again, right? Children don't think like that. Children don't have the emotional vocabulary or the emotional intelligence to even understand what they feel. Just they feel something. Maybe it's in the pit of their stomach, or it's in their throat, or they feel like a sweat on the back of their neck, or they feel self-conscious all of a sudden, right? They don't know what happened, but something happened. And now that we are adults and we have the emotional intelligence and the emotional vocabulary, we can go back into that memory and sort of decipher. We can like verbalize what those emotions were and like what decision we made, but only if we ask the question. And here's a very important piece that I learned, and I'll tell you how I learned it. You have to go back into the body of that child, because what happened, the way the child made the decision was a nonverbal body decision. It was a physical feeling. If you're not in the body of that child, you won't get that feeling. You got to go back in the body. And I'll tell you the story that really illustrated this for me. I taught this class at the University of Maryland. And after the class, as very often happens, someone came up to me and they said, you know, that story thing, like, didn't work for me. Like, could you do it with me? So I'll very often do this with people. If you do this with somebody after you hang up, here's the clue. You cannot tell them what you see. Because if, like, let's say your sister, your spouse, whatever, says to you, I don't know what it was. Can you help me figure it out? And then they tell you the story. If you know them, you will see immediately what they decided from that story. You'll be like, oh my God, that explains everything about you. Okay? Don't tell them. If you tell them, you rob them of their epiphany. And you could be right and you could be wrong. But if you're right, you know, you'll say, oh, your bike, you know, was stolen. You're like, yeah, you never share your stuff. That must be why. All they'll do is, really, you think? I don't know. Because this is where we started. Nobody likes to be told what to do. Nobody wants you to have this like magic mirror into their soul. So all you can do is ask questions and let them come to it on their own. If you see what it is, do not tell them. It's like opening the cocoon for the butterfly. They'll never fly because you didn't let them struggle. You have to let them struggle. So ask questions, guide them towards it, but let them do it. So I'm at the University of Maryland, and this kid comes up to me and he says, can you do it with me? I said, sure, you know, tell me your story. So here's the story. He's 10 years old and he went to sleepaway camp for the first time in his life, and he doesn't know anybody. So first day of camp, he's like meeting the other boys in his bunk, and he, you know, feels a little insecure and wants to measure up. So he says to them, starts mouthing off about what a great runner he is, and he's the fastest runner, and he won first place in his school and track and blah, blah. And they're all, you know, they believe him. What do they know? And another kid in the bunk says, oh yeah, me too. I'm the fastest kid in my school. And the kid's like, that's so great. Right, because he's lying. Nobody else knows it. He's like, fantastic. So the other kid says, you know, we should race sometime. And he's like, yeah, we should do that sometime. And he says, and the other kids in the bunk say, no, now. Why don't you race now? And he's like, oh, you know, me and my big mouth. But he doesn't have a choice. He's caught. So they say, race to the flagpole and back. Okay, on your marks, get set, go. So he says to me, I never ran so fast in my life, and I lost by half a step. That's my story. I said, okay, powerful story. Let's go. Let's ask the questions. What did you decide about yourself? What did you decide about life? I don't know. 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 What do you think? I don't know. I don't know. An hour and a half. It usually takes me, if I do this with somebody, an hour to an hour and a half to get to, because I usually don't know the people I'm doing it with. I finally, after doing for like half an hour, I say, let's back burner this. You know, tell me about yourself. I don't know anything about this kid. So he tells me how in school, he never really studies. He waits the last minute, and then he crams, and then he gets a B. And his mother's so mad at him because he never does well in school, and he doesn't really like to try. And as he's talking, I get it about 20 minutes before he does. So after schmoozing for a while, I'm like, you know, let's go back to that story. And this is where I learned you have to be in that body, because I realized, you know, sometimes you can be thinking about a memory in your life and you're like a fly at some point, you know, like on the ceiling looking down at yourself. You can't do that with this because you miss those nonverbal clicks and cues that that child had. And I realized this kid was like up in a tree looking down at the race. I was like, you got to get in the body. I'm like, come on. And I got up. It was like late at night already. I got up and I'm like pantomiming the whole thing. From like, come on, you're standing there. And they say on your mark, it's set, go. And you run and you lose. And I was like screaming. I was like, what did you decide? So finally he comes to this. He said, I think I decided about myself that I should never really try. And I think what I decided about life is that if you fail, you're a failure. So he never wanted other people to see him trying, because if he did that and he failed, he was a failure and he couldn't do that again. This was running his life, always acting cool, never trying too hard. And then when he failed, he could be like, so what? I never really tried anyway. So I said, what would you say to that child now? What's true? Like, go back into that memory and get down next to that kid. What's true? It's like, it's okay to mouth off. It's okay. You're new. You didn't know anybody. You're a kid. Like, totally understandable. Like, who hasn't done that? Told a white lie to make yourself feel better in a weird situation. And then you're like, I don't know why I said that. That was totally not true. We've all done that. So it's okay. It's okay to fail. There's nothing wrong with failing. Failure's fine. But you got to talk it through. I'll tell you one more example. I taught this in Chicago. This happened at Northwestern. And that's in Chicago, right? Northwestern? And yeah, okay, if somebody's nodding, thank you. So this girl comes up to me and she said, I don't know, it didn't work for me. So I said, okay, tell me your story. So here's her story. She was 4 years old. She was living with her grandmother. That's where she started. That's where I started. I don't know why she was living with her grandmother, but she was. She fell. She cut her head open. She needed stitches in her head. Her grandmother takes her to the emergency room. And for some reason, they weren't letting the grandmother into the room while she was getting the stitches. So she sees her grandmother through the window out in the hallway, but they won't let the grandmother in. And she's gushing blood and she's a little girl and she's crying and screaming and all this stuff. For some reason, the way that the hospital decided to solve this problem was they strapped her down to the table and gave her the stitches. So I was like horrified, and she saw my face. She's like, I'm okay now. I'm like, how old are you? Like, what was this, 1876? Like, who does that? She's like, I don't know. That's my story. I'm like, all right, let's go. What did you decide about yourself? What did you decide about life? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. She's like, what do you think? I'm like, sweetheart, I don't even know your name. I don't know what you decided, right? It was only 20 minutes because I was playing to catch. She finally said, what I think I decided about life is that it's a scary place. And what I decided about myself is it's not safe to be alone. Now, after she said this, I realized she was the only person I'd ever seen. I've taught in dozens of universities, hundreds and hundreds of kids. She was the only person that spent the whole class sort of cuddled up with her boyfriend in the classroom. So once she said that, I was like, are you the kind of girl that always had a boyfriend? She's like, mm-hmm. I'm like, can't take a class unless you know someone who's going to be in the class. Uh-huh. Can't go to a camp unless you know someone. Uh-huh. This was an undercurrent running her life. She didn't even see it. She thought it was normal to not want to be alone, to be afraid the world is scary. She didn't even see it. It was the undercurrent running her life. And when anything would go wrong, something in her head would say, like, you should have gone with somebody else. You should have trusted somebody else. I said, what would you say, that little girl now? What's true? Like, these, this ER staff is crazy, and your grandmother should have been with you. And the world is not so dangerous, and it's okay to be alone. It's sometimes really nice to be alone, right? What would you say to that child now? When you take all of these things, right? Like, the point of this class is not for me to tell you your purpose. I don't know your purpose. I don't know you. But you should know you. You should know you. Your strengths and your weaknesses, what you're good at, what you're bad at. The point of the sheet is not to have all the answers today, but to have the questions that you can ask. So as you move forward, God puts you here for a reason. Your existence, your soul, your situation is purposeful. This century, this country, that family, those talents, that school, that neighbor, that experience, that other experience, all the things Judaism teaches us, your life is purposeful. God is involved in your life. He has your back. He sent you here to do something. He wants us to be able to do it. We just have to ask the right questions and then like be quiet enough to let those answers bubble up. So my bracha to all of us is that you should find your purpose. You know, the world is waiting for you. We don't have substitutes. We need you. So whatever your light is, my bracha to all of us is you should find it and you should shine because the world is waiting for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nili. You're amazing. Thank everyone who participated. And I'll take you guys off. 1 second. Let me take you guys off so you guys can clap or whatever here. 1 second. How do you unmute everybody? Whatever, you guys can unmute yourselves, I guess. No?
I don't need the clapping, but if anybody wants to ask questions, I don't mind hanging on and like doing some questions. That's up to
Thank you, Nili. Once again, I want to thank my wonderful partners, Rabbi David and Ali Begun from Chicago from the Chaim Center, and Rabbi Shlomo and Hudi Abrams from Dallas, and Rabbi Aryeh and Michal Scheinberg, Rabbi Avram and Michal Scheinberg from San Antonio, from Red Face Shalom. Thank you all for listening. We have the recording. I sent you my email. Hopefully, Rabbi Scheinberg will send you his email, and Rabbi Begun or Ali Begun will send you their email. And this is why Nili's back, folks. So if you want to bring her back again, let me know. Let one of your
Very nice.
know, and we'll have her again.
here in person soon. That would be even better.
We got lots of she has lots of classes. So, and if you live in Houston, come to Holiday in a Box. Come to the Jewish Community Center at the Marketplace. Michal's selling Holiday in a Boxes. They're amazing, by the way.